Continuing with the Clone Wars, I hopped on over to the Asajj and Grievous arc, which includes Season 1, Episode 9, Cloak of Darkness, Season 1, Episode 10, Lair of Grievous, Season 2, Episode 9, Grievous Intrigue, and Season 2, Episode 10, The Deserter. For Part 1 of this arc, I'll be talking about the first two. Let's jump in. Cloak of Darkness. The Republic has Viceroy Gunray in their custody. Sidious and Dooku don't really trust Gunray not to talk. They think he's gonna spill the beans. They think he's a threat to all they've worked for. But Dooku assures Sidious that plans are already set in motion for Ventress to kill or rescue Gunray. Gunray has always seemed like a pawn to me, a cowardly little shit who's only in it for personal gain, and the episode definitely furthers that. The only issue I had with the episode, and I'm sure this is just me, is that knowing Gunray, I feel like he'd shoot his mouth off a lot sooner. Personal gain, of course, he's in custody, he's got a lot to lose, but that's just a little nitpick. And it wouldn't really serve the narrative, right? And wouldn't really bridge into the film smoothly if that were the case. I get it. I like the good cop, bad cop routine that Ahsoka and Luminara briefly had. Ahsoka, putting on an act, jumped at Gunray, lightsaber out, threatened him to talk, while Luminara is not a fan of that form of interrogation, but it worked. It got Gunray to the negotiating table at least. He became more willing. The episode is pretty simple in terms of story and location. The basic gist of what was going on is that Viceroy is in custody and Luminara is coming to rescue or kill him. So 3 big separatist boarding ships puncture the hull of the Republic cruiser. I loved this scene. It might have been my favorite scene in the entire episode. I don't think I've seen those things in action yet in the show. They fly super fast towards a ship, slam into it, and seemingly pry open a section of the ship like a can opener, which then drops super battle droids into the hole that was just created. It's a neat infiltration tactic that I thought was great. Once the initial battle calms down, it's revealed that Ventress is actually inside of one of the boarding ships. She drops down stealthily and goes on the hunt, later planting bombs in the engine room, which will later render the ship inoperable. There was a scene that happened early in Ventress's infiltration where a wounded clone is on the ground, and he's trying to relay some information over his communicator thing, but Ventress is running towards him, and he's trying to get the message out, but it's too late. Cuts him down. She gets him. That little scene, while it was short, was full of tension and dread as she's running towards him, approaching him, and he's trying to get the message out. It was really great stuff. Ultimately, Ventress gets to the holding cell where Gunray is. She gets him out. I kinda wish she would have just killed him right then and there, just silencing him, no hesitation, just in case things went south. He wouldn't be able to talk, just in case she wasn't able to make it out, just in case she would fail later on. She just kills him, just in case. That would have been great, but like I said earlier, they're kind of restricted with what they can do with certain characters in the show, right? Because the films exist. So it makes sense, looking at the broader narrative, that didn't happen. There's a Senate commando who turns out to be a double-crossing mercenary. He came off as a really great dude at first. I liked him. Telling Ahsoka that sometimes a soldier has to do what's right despite orders, which, hey, that's a good message. The UCMJ mentions obeying lawful orders. Of course, this has nothing to do with that. Of course, this is Star Wars. Luminara told Ahsoka to stay and guard Gunray, and the Senate commando, by acting super nice, is able to convince, or rather have Ahsoka convince herself to leave disobeying orders and help Luminara. Either way you look at it, there wasn't really a good option for Ahsoka. Either leave her post and help Luminara, allowing Gunray to be less supervised, or stay at her post, a decision that probably would have gotten Luminara killed. Flip of a coin. Overall, I liked the episode. It was simple and focused. I think my favorite part of the episode was the reveal that the commando was a mercenary paid by Dooku, and he was in it for his own gain, or maybe like I mentioned earlier, the scene with those boarding ships. I don't know, one of those two. But ultimately, that mercenary, that double-crossing Senate commando, was killed by Ventress, which I liked a lot. So much backstabbing and power-grabbing on the dark side. I love it. So after watching Cloak of Darkness, I hopped on over to Lair of Grievous. So Kit Fisto tracks the ship that Gunray escaped on in the previous episode. And when he, some clones, and his former apprentice, now Jedi Knight, Nadar, get to where the tracking beacon is, they discover that Gunray isn't actually there. It's a hologram. They've been duped. They quickly find out that they're inside of Grievous's lair, his home. I think one of my favorite parts of this episode was seeing the statues of Grievous before he became what he is now. The lair is basically a shrine to himself. He's got trophies all around his home of his accomplishments, He's got statues of himself throughout the lair. And if this wasn't Star Wars, he'd probably have a big Grievous neon sign at the top of the building like Biff Tannen. So Dooku kind of arranged a meeting between Kit Fisto's group and Grievous, I guess to test him. Grievous is walking into his home. His guards have been deactivated remotely by what we later find out is Dooku. And the Jedi are waiting for him. Sometimes I wish the Jedi were a bit more tactical, a bit more ruthless, because damn, talk about an easy blow to the Separatists. They could have just eliminated Grievous pretty easily. They could have let General Grievous walk a little bit further and then just shot him in the sides, back, and the Jedi could have just swung at him without him knowing what hit him. But hey, nice guy Jedi. Grievous's lair felt a little bit like Home Alone to me at certain points. Traps are set up. One with the floor falling out with a big pit of fire, I suppose. One that trapped uninvited guests inside of a room with a big monster thing. But the traps weren't able to stop the Jedi's pursuit. Another aspect I liked about this episode was seeing Grievous's spare parts room. Just the idea of this robot dude needing upgrades or repairs is kind of neat. Plug and play. A kind of medical facility for a biomechanical villain. The idea of that was neat. I wish it was explored a little more, and I wish it was explored more without General Grievous's comic relief butler. That butler kind of turned a super evil lair of a super self-centered evil bad guy into a goofy thing. His butler probably worked for some people, I get it, but for me, he kind of took me out of it. Watching Grievous put up with this butler's sassy comments was kind of, I don't know. I'm sure there's a reason behind it. Maybe that butler is just the best fixer-upper droid in the galaxy. Who knows? I don't know. I liked Kit Fisto's former apprentice Nadar. He was a bit reckless, but recklessness is fun to watch sometimes. He was quick to want to help and willing to sacrifice himself to save the cause. He was more ruthless, it seemed, and brash than most Jedi, and his tactics, if you could implement them to his full desire, would have probably come in handy. Maybe they would have won the war if they were a bit more like Nadar. Overall, I thought the episode was okay. I think the next two episodes will make me decide how I feel about this one, because at the moment, I'm not quite seeing the overall picture or the point. It kind of just seems like a way to show Grievous's home, which is fine, which I liked, but I really hope it ties into the final two episodes of this arc well, and shows why it's in there. There's a lot that I did like about this episode, but like I said, overall, narratively, it didn't do much for me. Thanks for watching, everyone. On to the next two. HelloGreedo, out.